Welcome to the Dynasty Deep Dive. I got my boy Connor Allen here from BetSpurt Sports Group, 4 for 4. Connor, I love your work, man. Good to have you on the show today. Connor and I actually met a few weeks ago at the sports betting conference in Fort Lauderdale. Had some fun, listened to some Steve Aoki. How's everything been coming out of the concert or conference for you, Connor?
Yeah, it's been good. Yeah, we were. I saw you wearing a fast draft shirt. One of another, Matt Kelly player profiler adjacent property there. So I saw you wearing a fast draft shirt, and we started chatting it up for a bit, and it was good, just connecting, and then obviously got to enjoy a good Steve Aoki concert. And I think there was a little more to unpack there if you want to give the audience any more insight there. But it was an awesome concert.
Yeah, dude, it was, bro. Like, it was really nice meeting you. Appreciate you recognizing a fast draft shirt out in the wild. Like, really cool to see that. Get a couple people walk up and say, "Hey, I like what you guys are doing." So it's a lot of fun, man, dude. Sports betting conferences are a hoot. Like, I go to conferences for my other job all the time, and like, they're nobody's drinking till 5, right? And everybody's professional. Everybody's wearing a suit. Like, the expo floor is just like a game room. They're drinking at noon. They're handing out swag left and right. And then, yeah, man, they rented out a club, free booze, Steve Aoki. And I mean, Connor and I were like, this is too good to be true, man. We're having a great time. So I think where you're going with that, though, is you want me to tell the viewers that Steve Aoki caked my wife. I brought my wife to the concert. He cakes people, apparently, and she started seeing people like holding up "cake me" signs, and so she's like, "All right, I got FOMO." We were right up front, and he lit her up, and I got it on video. So kind of something I'm a bit reluctant to be like, "Yo, Steve Aoki caked my wife,"
Well, when you phrase it like that, it's pretty funny. But no, I loved it because I think I lost track of you guys then, and then you sent me the video the next day, and I was dying laughing. What surprised me most, though, is like I always have seen like Steve Aoki throws like a legitimate like massive birthday cake in the crowd. I thought it was like one. He had like 4 or 5, like just like giant cakes that were huge, and he just takes them. And I think what's underrated too is his accuracy. Like, this guy's throwing these things like, I mean, you guys were close, but he's throwing some of these like 20, 30 feet, and they're just dialed like lasers,
on a fucking rope. Yeah, dude.
Tua could dream of having Steve Aoki's arm strength. I mean, this is like crazy,
Yeah, man. I was thinking the same thing. Like, this is pretty ridiculous. Like, there's like a line of like 6 cakes after he threw the one at my wife, and I'm like, she's just like a number. You know what I mean? She's not special. Like, she thought she was special, and then she's like, oh, there's like everybody's getting caked. But yeah, fun time. He knows how to rock a crowd. So great meeting you there, man, and excited to have you on the show today. Today we're going to be talking, like, I really like your mind when it comes to prop betting, kind of predicting things before they happen. You're a big redraft best ball player. This show is mainly Dynasty focused, but I think, the most valuable thing in Dynasty is immediate production, right? Like, if a rookie does nothing his rookie year, but he was drafted in the 2nd round, and a rookie goes off in his rookie year and he was drafted in the 5th round, like, everyone's going to cling towards that rookie who has that immediate production. So we're going to be talking through some of your bold takes for the season, maybe tie in how that ties into Dynasty long term. So let's kick it off, man. Let's talk through some of the rookie class for a little bit. Like, I'll just throw out, Ashton Jeanty. Like, obviously the 101 in all the rookie drafts. I couldn't get a single share of the 101, and I tried to pay up for a few. Do you think that, like, I mean, the landing spot is nuts, right? We know they're going to work him like a dog. There's no one else in that running back room. The metrics are phenomenal. Do you think he could be the Dynasty RB1 like halfway through the season? What do you think his rookie year is going to look like?
Yeah, I was looking through some Dynasty ADP, and right now you're basically comparing him to Jahmyr Gibbs and then Bijan Robinson, and I think Saquon's somewhere in the conversation too, but he's a little bit older, obviously. From just looking forward to this Raiders team, right? They obviously bring in Pete Carroll, who likes to run the ball. They brought in Chip Kelly, who in his final season at Ohio State, ran the ball a ton. Like they were like a run-centric team essentially with Judkins and Travion Henderson. So, like I think that they're going to run the ball a ton. They made that, very clear by drafting Ashton Jeanty 6th overall as well. They seem to like their offensive line enough. I think they're going to play slow and just run the ball a bunch. But Jeanty can catch the ball plenty too. So he's going to have pass game usage if they fall behind, and he's going to run the ball plenty. So do I think that he's going to be the running back 1 by midseason? I think that it'll be closer to being in the mix with Bijan and Jahmyr Gibbs. That wouldn't surprise me at all. The clear RB1's tough because we know Bijan is awesome. We know that Jahmyr Gibbs is awesome and could see even bigger workload this year. So, I think they're just going to be really close and neck and neck. So, would it surprise me either way? No. And honestly, I wouldn't fault anyone for buying him at we're not getting a discount. It's just like pure peak right now, but I wouldn't fault him for buying it because we know he's good. They're going to see plenty of workload. And I think they're going to be better. Their win total right now is 6.5. I think they're going to win 7 to 8 games this year, just based on the coaching and changes with quarterback situation and everything there.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said. I think to your point, the one thing that makes it tough for him is that Bijan and Gibbs could put up 30 points, 25 points a game. Like they showed that at the end of last season. And so if they continue on that trajectory, I don't think it's a slam dunk that he's the RB1, but I think you bring up an interesting point about the Raiders. I think they're going to be better than people expect as well. I think Geno Smith, you and I are both Broncos fans, so I think we say this a little reluctantly, right? Because Broncos and Raiders is they just don't mix. But I've always had respect for Geno Smith's game. I like what they did to retool that offense, bringing in Jack Besh, obviously Ashton Jeanty. I think they could be a team that gives teams some trouble. That being said, man, that AFC West is a gauntlet. If that's the worst team in the AFC West and you're projecting them at 8 wins, that's where I start to see it being tough for the worst team in the division to get 8 wins because they've got to play 6 games against the Chargers, the Broncos, and the Chiefs. That's a tough division,
Yeah, and maybe they don't get 8 wins, but they're gonna win some games they shouldn't for sure. They're gonna keep a lot of games close. It's gonna come down to just I think a lot of coin flip games. So they're gonna be a team that maybe covers a lot of games against the spread or is better than people expect right off the bat. And yeah, it's just going to be a dogfight basically every game, knowing that what Pete Carroll can do. And then, yeah, obviously the Geno Smith edition, I think, is massive. Still have Jacoby Myers, Jack Betts, like you mentioned, huge addition there. So I think they're set up for some success, which is a tough barometer. It's not they're going to make the playoffs or, they're going to be this winning team because like you said, the division is so tough. I still think that the Chargers, Broncos, and Chiefs are all better than them, but they're, I would say, close to a league average team, honestly, is what I would think if you just stack them just based on pure talent.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know in some of you posted a tweet today about some of your favorite kind of best ball picks. And one of the guys you mentioned was rookie RJ Harvey, who's already going at 54th overall in best ball drafts. Any chance you think he outproduces Jeanty, or is Jeanty pretty clearly going to be, do you think, their top rookie running back scorer?
That's tough. I don't know about Jeanty, but I do think there's a decent chance. So in Dynasty and redraft, he's going behind Travion Henderson, Omarion Hampton, and is pretty close to Quinshon Judkins, a little bit ahead in redraft, but behind in Dynasty. I think RJ Harvey is a great buying point at considering all the prices there. He's, has a good profile. He's on a team here where Sean Payton was trotting out some combination of Javonte Williams, Jaleel McLaughlin, Audric Estime. Estime was a healthy scratch and he's left. Yeah. Javonte Williams is obviously gone. And so then basically just looking at probably mostly RJ Harvey, maybe a sprinkle of Jaleel McLaughlin, in some random change of pace situations. I don't know. I think that we're going to see a ton of RJ Harvey on a good team, behind a good offensive line with where Sean Payton's going to get him involved in the passing game. So he's going to see a ton of work on a good team. I don't think we need to overthink it. And he also is super explosive. So there's a lot of good things to think about RJ Harvey. Can he outperform Jeanty? I don't know, but Hampton, Henderson, Judkins, I think that he could easily outperform any of them.
Okay. So potentially the RB2 there. One name you didn't mention in that Broncos running back room, and I'll just say it, I think he's going to give fantasy managers some fits, is Tyler Bidet. He kind of popped off. He had only, I think it was 8 rushing attempts or something, but for 70 yards one week when we were just going through it. We couldn't get 2 yards from Javonte. We couldn't get 2 yards from Audric, or we weren't giving him the opportunity to. And then Bidet comes out there and looked like the guy who could potentially see increased work. They started using him more the next week, and then he goes down with a season-ending neck injury. But he is still on that roster, and I could see kind of how I see it breaking down is like RJ Harvey is the main guy. Audric Estime getting a little more goal line work, a little more short yardage work than he did last year. And then like Tyler Bidet sprinkled in when you want him the least. You know what I mean? So that's my one. Like I think every team's got a running back like that is just like nobody's going to roster him or start him, but he's going to kind of be a thorn in fantasy manager's side. So
that's definitely the worry is like, I think, Tyler Bidet like is like kind of the wild card. How much do they use Audric Estime? I think it was interesting too that like all the pre-draft hype was that the Broncos were going to take a running back at 20th overall. Like everyone thought Hampton, the late, Albright started talking about it being Travion Henderson, and then Jahdae Barron falls and they ended up selecting him. I think they had him as like, basically their cornerback one and just were shocked that he was there. And so they had to take him. Like Sean Payton's face, if you look at when they were drafted, like he looked kind of pissed that like at the pick, he didn't look super happy because I think he wanted an offensive player, running back. So, has talked up RJ Harvey a little bit too. So yeah, I think that workload is going to dictate a lot of his value here because he can still get it done on, whatever, 12, 13, 14 touches a game. But if you're giving him 15 to 18 touches a game, I mean, he's like a, fringe RB1 right off the bat, basically. So that's like a huge difference, like you mentioned.
Well, and like one thing you touched on there was their first round draft selection, right? Jahdae Barron. Like this was, and I want to touch on dinosaur leagues here for a second because I'm in a league where I started in a fantasy league. It's one of my most competitive ones. I started defense and I started kicker. And the Denver Broncos had the #1 defense last year in fantasy football. They brought back all their guys. They get Barron to go on the perimeter with Defensive Player of the Year Pat Surtain. They led the league in sacks. Like, I mean, then they add Talona Hufanga, Dre Greenlaw. They have improved that that defense on paper. And I think this is going to be the best defensive unit in football. And it's going to put them in some game scripts that are favorable to running, right? So totally. Just another interesting point when you think about how defense kind of translates to offense sometimes.
No, absolutely. It's a great point there. This defense is legitimately, I mean, a top 3 unit on field and then fantasy wise. Yeah, like Barron can play in the slot. He can play out, out wide. Like he's really versatile, and I'm sure that they're going to love using him this year. And then also, and I think an underrated draft pick too, that was, one of my answers to something that we were going to talk about, but I think we should talk about now. Pat Bryant, the third rounder out of Illinois. I've seen him play live a couple of times as a Chicago guy. I mean, he just is awesome. Like I really liked him, liked watching him play. He's not super fast. He's not like an awesome separator all the time. Sean Payton's first comments out of this was like, he reminds me of Michael Thomas, which was interesting because Michael Thomas coming out didn't have necessarily the best profile overall either. Like he was like, I don't know, I think you've been in the Dynasty space long enough, but Michael Thomas coming out of Ohio State was the quote bad Michael Thomas. He was the bad one. There was another one that was a good Michael Thomas went to the Rams that of course did nothing in his career because we mess things up from time to time in the Dynasty community. But so I don't know. I thought that comp was interesting. He could be like a big slot kind of guy, run a bunch of routes over the middle. But I don't know. I thought that was an underrated pick as well because he is like Deshaun Vele, Marvin Mims, and then Cortland Sutton obviously is wide receiver 1. But there's a lot of room for. I mean, he could easily start week 1, and I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, it's a pretty middling wide receiver group still, And so the one part that's interesting to me with being a Broncos fan, Sean Payton fan, is like draft capital doesn't seem to matter to him in that respect. Like Marvin Mims, first pick he made first pick we made Broncos with Sean Payton as head coach. The guy has hardly played over 50% of snaps in his first 2 years in the league in very many games. And then you got a guy like Vele coming out last year, 7th round rookie, like 26 years old, and is seeing more playing time than Mims. So I'd love to see Mims ascend a little bit, but it sounds like you've seen Pat Bryant in person and you think he could be an immediate factor for them, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they'll probably rotate them all to some extent, but like I mean, Mims, I think Mims' dream, even though I think he's good, it just seems to kind of be dead, like in some sense. I don't know. It's like he had a couple of games where he was awesome. And then he, like you said, like his snaps dipped to like 30-40%. And it's just like something, whenever that happens, usually there's something going on that we can't see as fans. Like
Yes.
there's something in the locker room or like in practices that like he just like doesn't care. Like, I don't know. I'm speculating, but usually that's the case. Is like there's stuff that we as outsiders can't possibly know about what's going on.
Yeah, it's like not knowing the playbook, right?
Yep.
Maybe being late to something, but something where you're like, man, why is he in the doghouse? Like he is clearly one of the more electric wide receivers we have. He's been good when he's been on the field. And so I like the way they were deploying Mims at the end of last year, just kind of in that more creative, like Debo-esque role. They were giving him some running back touches. And he was getting like 10 touches a game, even when he was seeing 30% of snaps. And it was boiling down into a fantasy relevant role. So I'll be curious if that grows for him going into his third year. But let's talk a little bit more about some of the top end of this rookie class. Like what my favorite player as a guy who grew up in Colorado in this NFL draft was Travis Hunter, like by far. I mean, this guy, I every show I'm on, I'm talking him up. I think, he's still got some learning to do at wide receiver, but he's just such a natural football player. Any chance in hell you think he could outscore Brian Thomas Jr. in his rookie year?
Yeah, I like struggle with that a little bit because I just think Brian Thomas Jr. is that awesome. Not that Travis Hunter isn't going to be great. Like I actually am also a big Travis Hunter fan. I would say I want to be higher than him than consensus, but I think Brian Thomas Jr. is just going to be, lead the league in receiving potential yards, and then Travis Hunter, I think probably starts more in like not like I don't want to consider him just a gadgety role, but like I think that's like the floor. And then plus he's used as like a real receiver as well. So like they give him some manufactured touches, plus like he's actually running real routes, et cetera, et cetera. So like whether that pans out, I don't know, but you get the ball in his hands and he's awesome already. So like I think the floor here is really high on a guy like Hunter. And I also expect big things from this offense. You add Liam Cohen, you draft Bashal Tuden. The offensive line should be middling. Like Trevor Lawrence has always had potential, and he obviously was a fantastic prospect, has played really well periodically, has also played very bad at certain times too. So like, but again, like Liam Cohen has shown that I think he can maximize the talent of this offense. So I think we're going to see a big year out of everyone, honestly. I think the Jags offense is going to be, we want to talk bold takes. I think Jags can be like a top 5 offense, like a sneaky top 5 offense this year.
Oof. So I'm starting to put together kind of my team rankings of position groups, and I was looking at over the wide receivers. I think that's one of the best wide receiver duos in the league, and I've got the Jaguars just inside the top 10 in terms of wide receiver groups. Does that sound about fair?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Also thinks it also depends on what you think about like Diami Brown,
Yep.
and like
Parker
he's been talked up a
Washington.
bunch. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah,
So
they some solid depth, right? But those two guys really as headliners, I think that it's a formidable group,
totally. I mean, when just Brian Thomas and Travis Hunter alone, you're just in such a good spot. Like I think they're gonna crush. I'm really excited for both of them this year.
So talk to me a little bit about, that was another guy you mentioned that you are clicking at cost in best ball drafts, is Bashal Tuten. So I'll pull up his player profiler page here, because I mean, just fun to look at these when they're all juiced up in the 99th percentile, right? He's got 100th percentile 40-yard dash, 98th percentile speed score, 97th percentile burst score. This guy's fast and he's explosive. And I think the early draft ADPs are showing us that this is the top player. This is the top running back people are targeting in this offense, ahead of Travis Etienne, ahead of Tank Bigsby. Talk to me a little bit more why you're so high on Tuten. Do you think that that the Jaguars could trade Bigsby? Do you think that this guy ends up holding down kind of that lead back role by the end of the year?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot going on here. So like right now I want to buy Tuden because I think that the Jags are going to trade Travis Etienne. Didn't show up to OTAs. They're saying it was like a flight issue. I don't know. There hasn't been reported that he's there now. So I like it, I feel like they would have probably reported that by now if he was. And if he is, maybe that's fine. I still think there's a decent chance they trade him. They already kind of came in they cleaned out Gabe Davis, even though they had him signed to a contract. Like, I think that they're very clear on who they want there and who they don't want there. And there's already some rumblings that it wasn't Travis Etienne. So then if you kind of get in that mindset, then you're looking at just Tank Bigsby and Bashal Tuten. Like, in that sense, like, I think that Tuten becomes like a pass catching satellite back plus, like, immediately. Like, he's like immediately just like their change of pace plus back extra. If Bigsby sucks like he did his entire career up until like the second half of last year, like, Tuten's like, wheels up. He could be literally like he could be the starter and everything that you want. He's explosive, great profile, again, on an offense that I expect to be really good. So I think that the floor is not necessarily super high. They don't trade Travis Etienne. Like, he's a little bit of a murkier path, but I think that regardless, like, he's going to see some pass catching work. Plus, if, Travis Etienne gets traded and he works out a bigger role, is just outplaying Bigsby, which I think is all very possible. Like, the ceiling here is massive. Like, just again, like could be a second round pick next year, like Bucky Irving style, in a lot of fantasy drafts. So I like chasing the ceiling of those guys, especially at like a reasonable cost in redraft. Dynasty, I think that his ADP has probably been creeping up a decent amount. I mean, we're still seeing like what RB31 in look at that, startups, and then 100 overall. I don't know, maybe a bit rich, but I think the upside's there. It's massive. So
yeah, I mean, the one thing, and I'm sure you know this, that's going to get him off the field is fumbling, right? Like, ball security, job security. He had some fumbling issues at Virginia Tech. Liam Cohen said he dropped the ball on the very first rep in OTAs, right? So he's going to have to work through that, but that is a fixable issue. But it's also one of the things where, to your point, that's why I kind of like Bigsby at cost too, because it's like in that world where ETN gets traded, someone's got to get the work. We know that Cohen can draw up schemes that can be effective for running backs. And so I like both those guys at cost. Curious, where do you think would be the best landing spot for ETN?
Yeah, I think there's two right now that I think could be interesting. Number one, I think that the Chicago Bears are going to trade for or sign a running back at some point in the offseason. They, by all accounts, really loved Ashton Jeanty. They traded back multiple times, after getting sniped on a running back in the NFL draft. They wanted Travion Henderson at 39th. The Patriots picked him at 38th. They wanted another running back. I think it was RJ Harvey in the third round. They had the pick after, so they traded back after that. They just couldn't land the running backs that they wanted. And we saw that. I mean, the last time we saw Ben Johnson and DeAndre Swift working together, Jamal Williams had 250 carries that season. And DeAndre Swift had like 130. There was some weird stuff on Hard Knocks that year too, behind the scenes, where like Ben Johnson and the running backs coach were like, you're the best you could be the best running back in the league, but you don't do this. And DeAndre Swift was like, didn't really seem to care. Like, he was just like, oh, okay, whatever. Like, I believe that they're going to, like, it was very weird. Like,
I got to go find that. I got to rewatch that, because that is, like, to your point, now it's relevant again.
Totally.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So I mean, I think they're going to use him. I think he's going to be like, again, change of pace. They're going to use him like 10, 12 touches a game. But I also think that they need a thumper, or they need someone who can like carry most of the load for them. So I think that could be Nick Chubb, could be Travis Etienne, not necessarily a thumper, but I think just someone he could carry the load for them more, I think, or J.K. Dobbins. So like, I think any of those three guys would be pretty interesting for the Bears. And so, yeah, Etienne there, or Washington maybe. I think they wanted a running back. They talked about catching passes more, and all they have is Eckler, who could like legit be cut if they really found someone else, and Brian Robinson, who is not necessarily a great pass catcher. So,
dude, give me ETN on the Cowboys.
That'd be great.
I could see Jerry being like, "Hey, he's a former first rounder. Like, run him into the dirt." Like, I don't know. That's just kind of how my brain works, but. Connor, you've been awesome so far. Next on the show, after this, we are going to talk through more of the running back rumor mills. So don't go anywhere.
It is a damn shame we only get to do a handful of rookie drafts every season. After doing all this rookie analysis, you want more bites at the apple. And that's why we have the Fast Draft Origins tournament. You draft 6 rookies, the top 4 into your lineup. It's best ball style, and it's just $5 to win a $5,000 first prize. So if you're passionate about Taj Brooks or RJ Harvey, get on Fast Draft and use your favorite creator's code to get a $50 deposit match. A $50 deposit match to go make thousands of dollars drafting the rookies that you know and love.
Hell yeah, man. at Fantasy Picasso. Actually, you don't need the at sign, just Fantasy Picasso on Fast Draft. Sign up today, enter my handle, and you can get a deposit match and go start drafting today. I love off season and rookie drafting, so that's one of my favorite things I've been doing all off season. So let's get back to the rumor mill of kind of the off season and the running backs and some of the guys I know that you've kind of been tracking. Have you been predicting a Brees Hall trade, and do you think there's validity to any of those rumors?
Yeah, initially I thought that there could be during the draft around then, and I think it kind of would have happened then. I would be kind of surprised at this point if they traded him, just because they have a defensive-minded head coach. I think they're going to run the ball a ton. Like Braylon Allen and Brees Hall, I think both see a lot of work. Justin Fields obviously is going to run the ball a bunch. So yeah, I just think we're going to see a massive run-heavy offense. So could they still trade him? Yeah, but I'm not necessarily buying it at this point. It seems like the steam on that has calmed down a little bit. During the draft, it was hot and heavy. I thought that he was going to get traded for like a day 2 pick or something like that at some point. But no, I think at this point he probably sticks with the Jets. But I think he sees a ton of work. I think that he probably catches a decent amount of passes, and with them focusing on the running game a little bit more, I think he should have a better year. He was obviously super hyped up coming into last year. The Jets, overall just fell flat on their face, and so this year, it's tough to envision that their offense is much worse. But I don't know. I'm not necessarily buying Brees Hall, but I'm also not selling because I think he's a good talent when he's healthy.
Yeah, he's a solid player. I'll throw up his page here quickly. Again, similar song and dance to Bashal Tutin when you just look at that elite level of speed and explosiveness with his athletic testing. I do think, exactly like you said, this is going to be a ground and pound offense with a lot of running back touches and a lot of Justin Fields running the ball as well. So with that said, are we out on Garrett Wilson at cost, or do you think that this could be similar to how Justin Fields propelled DJ Moore to his best fantasy season?
Yeah, when you look at the Jets wide receiver depth chart, it's just like, it's barren. Like there is no one else. It's just Garrett Wilson. So I think Justin Fields is probably going to throw the ball like 20 to 25 times a game, which is obviously really low. But like 8 to 10 of those might be to Garrett Wilson. So it's like that balancing act of almost what we saw from George Pickens last year of on the Steelers, and what we've seen from DJ Moore in the past. If they fall behind, they're going to have to throw more. Their defense played super well for a couple of years. After they lost Salah last year, played horrible. This doesn't matter. Sauce was playing horrible. Everyone was playing bad. They lost DJ Reed. I don't think the Jets are going to be all that good, to be honest. I think that they could be one of the worst teams in the league, mainly because I'm not a Justin Fields guy. But I think they're going to run the ball a lot for as long as they can. And then if they fall behind, their defense is still a big question mark. I think it could be fine, or they could be pretty bad like they were without Salah. It's all up to Aaron Glenn, I think. So a lot of question marks here. Garrett Wilson, though, I struggle with. I think that, again, he could see a ton of volume, and that volume could be escalated if they fall behind. But in some game scripts, he's going to see 5 targets, and that's it, because they're not throwing the ball.
Yeah, I agree. I love the player. I love the talent, but man, this guy just can't buy a good situation for the life of him, right? Has a great start to last year. Then they go out and get Devontae Adams, right? And so I think this is just one of those situations where the player is good, but in general, you want to target good offenses, right, in fantasy football. And so, I know a lot of people out there saying, hey, go believe in the talent, go buy Garrett Wilson. I'm not in a position to go target him in Dynasty or redraft right now, unfortunately. So I agree with you there. Let's talk a little bit more about, like I said, kind of close out that RB rumor mill. What about J.K. Dobbins? Do you think, there's been some grumblings he could go to the Texans? Do you like that landing spot? Do you think there's somewhere that would be a better fit for him?
Yeah, I think it's kind of like we talked about, in the ETN situation. I think Chicago, I think Washington, I think Dallas, Houston could make sense. I was very much out on J.K. Dobbins last year, unfortunately. No one had returned from an Achilles injury ever. And he returned and he was good. He played pretty well for a while and handled some big workloads in certain games. So I think he proved a lot of people wrong last year. And it's good. Modern medicine is advancing, and J.K. Dobbins, I think, is a specimen. So it's exciting to see. And I think that he can be a difference maker and is a good buy low opportunity. I like, you see it actually all the time in, like, especially best ball redraft. Before guys sign with teams, they go so late. Like, they're like your last pick or second to last pick. And you can probably get them for like pennies in Dynasty right now. But when they sign with a team, like, they're going to, you know, their value instantly shoots up. And so you're basically just buying low. You're leaning into uncertainty, which is okay, you know, because again, they're way more volatile. And so when they do sign somewhere, if he signs with Chicago or any of the teams, Dallas, like, I think he would be the best running back in Dallas pretty much right away, to be honest.
Right. Yeah, I love that point. I think I've been getting him in my last click in best ball drafts, best ball mania on Underdog. I got him with my last pick. And so him, Keenan Allen, even, like, these are guys who are at the very end of the drafts right now. Amari Cooper, I'm a little more sour on, just because, like, he just really seems to have, like, kind of lost the juice a little bit there. But even him is a guy who's just going completely off the radar. I think all of those guys are at the stage in their career where they're like, we don't want to go through OTAs. We don't want to, you know, do the off-season stuff. We've earned the right to sign with a team later. And you know what? That's honestly, I don't have that big of a problem with it. Like, find the team you like. Obviously, we'd feel more comfortable with them from a fantasy perspective if they were like on a team and going to the practices and building that rapport with their offense. But all three of those guys, I think, are to your point, just like, this is the lowest you're ever going to see them until once they sign with a team. It's only uphill from there, you know?
Yeah. I don't know if you saw the Matthew Berry, like, things I learned from the combine column, and he was talking about Amari Cooper. And he was like, oh, like, you know, I talked with someone who used to coach him and said that he's like basically cooked, and like, he's like, isn't good anymore. I know who he's talking to because I was there. I was at the combine, and I promise you that you should take that seriously. So yeah. So yeah, I would just don't draft him. I would say, like, you know, I think we agree into most of those players there. I fully agree with that. Him, he's like, he's off my draft boards. I don't know if he's honestly going to play again. If he does play, like, he's nothing left. He's got nothing.
Left. When I saw Matthew Berry say that, I almost, like, for a second, I was a little like cagey, because I'm like, come on, like, Matthew Berry, like, who are you to just kind of say someone's toast? But then I read it and I'm like, oh, like, he's not saying like he believes it, A, but B, he believes it because he's got reason to, and he's got someone telling him that from a kind of a reliable source. So you heard it here. Connor was a fly on the wall and is out as well. So it's not just Matthew Berry blowing smoke. So I love that, man. Let's kind of close up with a few final questions. There's one that was burning for me. You started doing your, like, analysis of over and unders for week 1, and you took the under on Omarion Hampton's rushing, and I think it was like 50 yards. Now, I think they play the Chiefs in week 1. Great rushing defense. Actually, no, they really showed it in the Super Bowl too, right? They kept Saquon in check. They are a tough rushing D, but still, I felt like 50 yards is a pretty low prop. And so, can you just talk me through your thought process as to why not the over in week 1, and how far in the season is that, like, gonna continue? Is Omarion like toast for year 1?
Yeah, so I think first couple things here is, one, like, I do a lot of prop betting, and I bet a lot of unders. So, like, that's like my specialty, is like, I focus on unders. And in this situation particularly, yes, they play the Chiefs. They, I believe it, are at home, but they're probably gonna be underdogs. So there's the threat of them falling behind. They're gonna have to throw the ball more. Number 2, Najee Harris is there. I think Najee Harris starts probably week 1, and that they mix in Omarion Hampton. Like, probably 1A, 1B situation either way. Even if Omarion Hampton starts and is the guy, I'm sure Najee Harris is going to see some early down work. Maybe it's like second series, third series. Again, like, he's going to play a little bit. They signed him to too much. I don't think they're just going to put Omarion in and, like, be 20 touches a game right away. Mid-season, maybe. Like, I think that that's possible. So, like, from a dynasty lens, from a full season lens, I'm not, like, out on an Omarion Hampton because I think he's a good player, and the situation is good. They're going to try and run the ball a lot. In this game in particular, though, like you mentioned, great run defense, underdogs, probably a split workload. Like, I mean, do you think he sees more than like 10 to 12 carries? 12 carries against the Chiefs run defense is, you got to get 50 yards. That's a lot. You got to be humming, or you got to break one. Like, you got to be doing really well. So I don't know if he can get there. So I thought I think that after training camp, when sports books actually open this up, it's probably going to be closer to like 38 to 40 in week 1. That's what I would guess. And Najee will probably be similar. Like they'll both be around like 35 to 40 yards would be my guess. So toast for the full season, definitely not. But week 1, I think his under was an interesting play.
Dude, I love it. It's very insightful. Great breakdown there. And I kind of hate that I agree with you, right? Because we want to see these rookies just like bust, punch the Chiefs in the face week 1, right? But it just, I think it'll take a little bit of him having to pry that role out of Najee's hands. I don't think it will be too hard. I think after the first few weeks, Najee's going to be who Najee is, a guy who's rushing for 4 yards a carry or less. And, Omarion's going to be the guy with visibly more juice and probably better statistics to support that. And I think at that point, you can only fight that for so long. But that being said, Greg Roman has done this before, right? He drafted J.K. Dobbins and then proceeded to ride Gus Edwards like a dog, right? So this is not stuff that should be completely surprising to people. And I think it's good that we air it out now. Kind of like, I'll just kind of wrap up with like one of the last big offseason developments was the Cowboys acquiring George Pickens. I think a lot of people got really excited about that, right? I'm a little bit more like, man, when I really look at my projections and how this all boils down, I'm like, does he break 1,000 yards? Like, is he 1,000-yard receiver? I don't think it's a 1A, 1B thing with him and CeeDee Lamb. I think it's CeeDee's the 1. He's going to be the 2. Will be the second option in that offense. We'll see kind of that wide receiver 2 level of targets in a good offense, but still more of a wide receiver 2 than like a 1A, 1B. So I'm not convinced that he goes over 1,000 yards, but what say you?
Yeah, it's a tough situation. It's something that I talk with our projections guy at 4for4, John Paulson, about a lot. And there's like certain players and situations that I think that are really difficult to project, and for like a variety of reasons. One, like the Cowboys pass rate, I think they're going to be a team that tries to run the ball, but their running game is going to be so bad. Like they're going to have to pass the ball a ton.
Yep.
And so that's a problem. Number 2, I think that Pickens is like a perfect complement to CeeDee Lamb in terms of like, he's going to play on the outside. He's going to open up the field for CeeDee Lamb. Finally, like they've been trotting out just like these terrible players like Jonathan Mingo and, like shell of himself, like older guys, it's like terrible outside receivers. And so, yeah, it cooks. And now we're in a spot where like, okay, Pickens can actually open up a little bit of space for CeeDee Lamb. So I think that there's going to be some probably games where Pickens has like 30 yards on 3-4 targets, and some games where he has like 150 yards on like 5 targets, and just like catches a couple of bombs, is used deep, and especially games where Cowboys getting shootouts, like he's going to be awesome. Best ball, love him. Redraft, don't love him. Like Dynasty, I don't really think that I'm super into it, just because on a game-to-game basis, like, yes, he can win you a week. He can also put up a total air ball. So I think that he's a talented player, and I think that he's going to have some games that are going to be like week-winning weeks, basically, from Pickens. I don't know how often they're going to be. It could be twice a year. It could be 5 times, in which case it's worth it. But I'm not willing to bet on that, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything there. I think this is a good real life situation. This makes sense for real football, but in fantasy football, I don't know if he's like a set it and forget it guy by any stretch of the imagination. I did, as I told you earlier, I had like the Jags at about 9th in my wide receiver group rankings. I think I got the Cowboys around 7th because I do think Lamb and Pickens, that's some serious 1A, 1 or like 1 and 2 juice. And then I don't hate Tolbert, and I don't hate Kevontae Turpin. Like, again, in a real life situation, like that's a great gadget guy. He's got awesome speed when deployed correctly. So I think it's a great room. But I don't know if I love George Pickens for, to your point, fantasy. In Dynasty, I do think he's kind of intriguing in best ball, right? Where you could get a couple of those boom weeks because a guy like Dak can hit those deep shots. And I think that's how they'll deploy him. So
there's
awesome,
there's a couple of guys in his range though that are similar. Across most platforms, we're talking about like Jameson Williams, DK Metcalf, George Pickens. And so those are guys, in my opinion, I'm happy to take in best ball as my wide receiver 3 or 4 at that point, usually. because they can have weeks that are insane. But on a week-to-week basis, it's going to be tough in redraft and dynasty. You might lose some weeks just because you get like a 2 or 3 pointer out of them a couple of times.
Right. Well, let's close out, man. What do you think? Any bold, like maybe your boldest take that we didn't talk through? Anything that we missed?
See, that's tough because I had the Jags take here. I'll go with all right, I'll give you a good one and a bad one. We kind of touched on both of them. Jags, top 5 offense. Jets, worst record in the league. Number 1 pick next year.
Ooh, I love it. They could use that. They could actually use that. So.
They could definitely use that. Right.
Well, Connor, awesome having you on the show today, man. Thank you. Kind of close us out. Where can the people find your work? How can they kind of keep up with all the awesome stuff you do?
Yeah, you can find myself over at 4for4.com. You can find me on Twitter at Connor Allen NFL. We'll do best ball content. We'll have, all my player prop bets and season-long futures and everything. And I'll be, in the fast draft streets as well. I've already ripped a couple of teams there, and definitely more to come. So
awesome. Well, great having you, man. If you guys like the show, give it a thumbs up, like it, comment. If you have any questions for Connor and I, and subscribe to the Player Profiler Now page, because we're going to be bringing awesome insight, awesome guests like Connor all season long. Good luck winning your fantasy leagues, everyone.